So, School Diaries is a program in which I'll be sharing my my experience as a student, and what I learned from my teachers, and how I'm implementing that in my own life, in my own teaching career. Not about academics, but more about the building of the character. So, this is a very funny incident which I'm going to narrate to you, and my students will definitely be in a shock because एक टीचर कभी ना कभी तो क्योंकि स्टूडेंट भी तो कभी टीचर भी तो कभी स्टूडेंट था सो यू नो आई वाज इन माय ए levels and AS level. So our principal had gone for Hajj and then some other trips. So she was away from the school for around 2.5 months. One of our English teachers was the acting principal, Miss Amna Namazi, and our principal was a dynamic lady, is a dynamic lady, Rainaz Jahangir Khan, Mrs. Rainaz Jahangir Khan. What an amazing personality, was an amazing lady and a very big name in the education sector of Karachi. So she was away, Ma'am Rainaz was away, and and I had changed the subject. I initially had physics, and I left physics, and I had joined the business management class. And the management teacher was also, the current one was leaving and the new teacher was coming, and we used to have attendance on the sheet. Not the attendance used to not the attendance used was not being called out. So we used to have our attendance sheets and we would just sign it. The attendance was not being called. So I got a chance, and that the principal is not there, and the new teacher doesn't even know me, and I used to be this dadagi type in the school. So I used to tell my friends, हाँ attendance लगा देना, दोस्तों को बोल दिया करता था या किसी को भी बस ओए attendance लगा देना. So हाँ जी लगा देंगे. So I was being marked present, that I was present in the class, but I was actually not in the class. And somehow the new teacher couldn't catch me. And you know how much time I bunked my business management class. It used to be the last period because in O levels we have business studies and in A levels we have business management. The Phillips Kotler book, I still remember that book also. So, I bunked my classes for around 2.5 months, the business management class, because it used to be the last period. In the last period, we were allowed to go out of the class. In the last period, we were allowed to go out, and we can go home and whatever. The gate used to be open, but not before that. But in the last period, we were allowed to leave the school. So I got a chance because I was amongst the few students who used to drive their car to school. So I would just pick up my friends, and we used to just fool around the area and for 1 hour, and then I used to drop them and I used to go back home. And there was a nearby bakery, so we used to go to that bakery, and there was a park, Hill Park, very famous in Karachi. So we used to go there, or we can leave for home. And we used to play volleyball, and I was really obsessed in my A levels with volleyball. So I would play that and just fool around with my friends, thinking that I will not be caught. But you know how I was caught. We had our exams, and of course, I had not been taking classes, but I was amongst those students who would study at the last moment and get good marks. So I got one of the highest marks in the class. So I was more of like that Amir Khan of Three Idiots. So that's why I resonate so much with Three Idiots and Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara and Dil Chahta Hai, because these movies, it is as if I'm seeing my own life in it. I've lived that life during my student years. So I got one of the top marks in this class. And then the teacher, Miss Naveen, she was like, who's this guy? He has his attendance, but the attendance has different signatures. Because somewhere, when Mrs. Rainas was about to come back, I started going back to my classes because I came to know that she's coming back. So I started going into the classes, and she asked me that, who are you? So I said, I have just, taken the subject. So she said, okay. But then when she checked the record, so I was being registered for a long time in business management, and my signatures were different, because different people would mark my, signatures, and then when I started marking my own signatures, and she got the attendance of other classes also. She got the attendance of the maths class. She got attendance of the computer science class because I had these other options, computing and mathematics in my A levels. So she checked the attendance of those, and I used to have this proper sign, which I even mark your copies with, so my student copies with. So that is my signature everywhere. So she deduced that he has not been coming to the class, and when it was being calculated, so it was 2.5 months of bunking. So, and she just because we used to get the marks for attendance also. So she was very angry, very furious. And I remember it was a Friday, and I was driving back to my home, and suddenly, my mother calls me up and on my mobile, and she says that Mrs. Rainas has called, and she has called you back to school. Where are you? So I said that I'm in my way, on my way to home. And then I called up Mrs. Rainas from my mobile only, and she said, just come to school right now. And she was very angry, and I was like, okay ma'am, I'm coming. So when I went into the office, Mrs. Rainas was there and Miss Naveen was there. So I understood, what has happened. And I went to Mrs. Rainas, and she said that, Zishan, you have been, she knew all her students by name. We were around 200 plus students, and she knew everyone by name. So she said, Zishan, you have been bunking your business management class for the past 2.5 months. May I know the reason? And I just said to her that, ma'am, should I be honest or should I lie to you? And she said to me, I want you to be honest. So I told her, I said, ma'am, I told her the situation. I said that you were not there. You had gone for Hajj and your subsequent trips after that. I knew that you were not coming back for another few days or few months. And we had the change of teacher. Ma'am, Miss Naveen was new and the previous teacher had left. So Miss Naveen would really not know her students. So I took the advantage of the situation, and I thought that I can easily bunk. And since I was not being caught, so I was bunking my business management class, and it is as true as I can say. So she just looks at me like this, and she says, "Okay, go." And I was like, even I was shocked because bunking in our school for 2.5 months could have resulted in a complete expulsion from the class, and Mrs. Rainas would not even hesitate, in expelling any student, not suspending, expelling, actually just expelling, expel kar dein, bas, nikal dein. And she would not hesitate doing it also. So could have resulted in expulsion. It could have resulted in a suspension. It could have resulted in a deduction of my marks, anything. And she just, she's asked me to leave. And then Miss Naveen was like, ma'am, and she was like, I'm not doing anything. And then she said one thing. She said, Naveen, if I'm going to penalize him right now, he will never confess whatever he has done in his life. He will be afraid to confess. He will be afraid to admit his fault. He will be afraid to speak the truth. So if I penalize him right now, he's never going to speak the truth in his life again, and he's never going to confess his faults. He's never going to confess the truth, because confession also needs confidence. I still remember those words still echo in my ears, you know that she said that. And Miss Naveen, she of course wanted some action to be taken, but Mr. Rana just let me go. And then I said to her that, ma'am, I promise that I will never let you down again. I will never ever bunk my classes again. And believe me, not only did I not bunk in my A level, I never even bunked my classes in my university. Being absent is different, that we are absent. We didn't go to the university, but when I'm in the campus, I would never ever bunk my class, even in my A level, because Ms. Rainas entrusted me that confidence. This was a part of the character building, which our schools at that time, were giving us, which is very important today. We can get you A's, we can get our students A's and A stars, but getting to build their characters was, is something which I think is lacking in today's education system. And this is 2001, not very far, 19 years back. So this happened, and I remember Mrs. Rainas saying that, giving me that confidence. And not only did I not, as I told you, not only did I bunk my classes in my A levels, never bunked my classes in A levels after that. I never ever bunked my classes ever again, because this is how these great educationists of that time, you know, gave us these morals and values. So how do I implement this in my teaching? Whenever a student, I request the parents, I request the teachers, you can have your views, you can have your opinions, but whenever a student or a child comes to you with a confession, even when he admits his fault, that he has been at fault, he has done that, let him go, forgive him. It will give him a confidence that somebody trusted me even when I was wrong, and maybe that person will never repeat. I wish I would have learned my lesson, because When we do a crime, we leave behind some footprints, we leave behind some dots. And those dots, you connect the dots and you reach to that crime, you reach to that crime scene. And since I'm very much interested in investigating things, so I know how it is done. So, we leave behind the footprints, and those footprints then lead to the main criminal. I wish I would have learned my lesson at that time, although of this connection of connecting the dots and reaching the, crime scene. But I wish I would have learned that lesson. But I did not learn that lesson. I learned that lesson a very hard way later on in my life. But but okay, fine. Until as you learn your lessons, that's the most important thing in life. So sooner, later, whatever, at whichever point. So I have already posted a video about learning lessons and learning from failures. Anyways, so let's not speak about that. So how do I implement that in my teaching, in my life? That whenever a student comes to you, whenever a child comes to you with a confession that he has been wrong and he's done that, we tend to scold that person. We tend to punish that person again. We tend to punish that person. To punish the child for his confession. Because yes, of course, if you confess a crime, you get punished. If somebody confesses a murder, so they are given the death sentence. But it will kill that brave person who's confessing his crime in him when we punish the confessor. Okay. In Christianity, there is a concept, they confess their sins in front of the priest. And the priest does not even look at the person who's confessing. He sits in this cockpit, and the person comes, confesses. He does not even look at that person. They have this concept, I think, that the priest forgives the person for that crime. I think it's a concept in Christianity. But then confessions are very, very, something which are not to be penalized as according to my law. Because what this is what I've learned from Mrs. Rainaz, a dynamic lady in her own right, and RJK, Rainaz Jahangir Khan. This name is unforgettable in my life. And more funny incident. As I was leaving the room, I remember Miss Naveen telling me that, do you feel sorry for what you have done? Because I was very blunt, so. And Miss Rainas was letting me go. So Miss Ramesh was very, very angry that how can he just leave like that? So Miss Ramesh just said to me, do you feel sorry for what you've done? And I just turned to her and I said, should I be honest? And Miss Ramin bursted into laughter. And Miss Rainas also bursted into laughter. I hope they remember this. If they are seeing this video, they remember this incident. And she bursted into laughter, and Ms. Rainas bursted into laughter. I bursted into laughter. And believe me, then after that on, I became the most favorite student of Miss Naveen, and she became my most favorite teacher after that. So after this incident. So you know this is what life is. This is how schools build up the characters of the student. Still, I'm brave enough to admit my faults, to admit the wrong I have done, which helps me grow as a person. Definitely it helps me grow as a person, because then you are being caught. And Mrs. Rainas, I remember she said this to Miss Naveen, that had we caught him different signatures, he could have easily gone away. He would have said that I do different signatures. What evidence we had that he was not in the class, because attendance has been marked, although there were different signatures, but he could have easily said that I do different signatures. At times I do different signatures. This is not my authorized. This one is not only my authorized signature. It can be any, and believe me, I did not had this in my mind. हम बहुत शरीफ थे. हम बदमाश होके भी उस ज़माने के बहुत शरीफ थे. हम तो आज पढ़ा रहे हैं तो हमें पता है बच्चों का. तो इसलिए खैर बच्चे हमारे ही हैं. तो this is my request to you, to the parents and to the teachers, that if a student comes with a confession, let him go, forgive him. It will give him a confidence to speak the truth, even in the most difficult times when it has come to his throat like this. And how do I apply this? Because I have had students. We have always have students, cribbing for 1 mark, and they are fighting with you, arguing. मेरे marks यहाँ क्यों काटे? मेरे marks क्यों काटे? मेरे marks बढ़ाएं, ये करें, वो करें. But twice in my life, I have had students who have come to me that I have overlooked at fault, and they have come to me and they have asked me to, reduce their marks. So I did not reduce their marks. It happened once in Karachi. It has happened recently in one of my classes, online classes. I'm of course I don't take names, so I'm not taking the name of the student. But both of them, they came to me with their papers and they told me, sir, this is the thing which you have marked correctly. It is actually wrong. So you should deduct my marks. I know these students, if they are right, they will fight for 1 mark. But I was surprised that, even if I overlook an error, most of the students will not come to me to deduct their marks. They will fight with me for that one mark if I have, marked them wrong. But nobody will come and tell me that, they will want to increase their marks rather than, getting their marks deducted. But here we have students who are coming and getting their marks deducted. So I never deduct those marks. And then the class told me, sir, he does it with every teacher. He does it with every teacher, not only you. He does it with every teacher. He gets his marks reduced. Some people, then penalize and they reduce the marks. And some every teacher has their own laws. But I request those teachers that mark your students for honesty. Let them have the mark, because it won't be shown in the paper, but don't reduce their marks at that time. Give them a mark for honesty. I told my student that we need people like you you are the future of Pakistan. Maybe tomorrow you are the prime minister of Pakistan. I wish that we have such prime ministers and we have such presidents. We have such people on the high post. Pakistan really needs such people. So this is the future of Pakistan. That is why the teachers are called nation builders. So I'm proud to be a teacher because I'm a nation builder. I'm building the future of Pakistan like this by giving these. And when I appreciated my student in the class in front of everyone, so it becomes an inspiration even for other students to follow. This is the future of Pakistan. We are doing a very important, as teachers, we are doing a very important thing. And we are not being called spiritual parents. We are not being called nation builders just like that. This is how we build a nation. So this is the future of Pakistan. We want it as bright as possible, and we want them to serve the country. Okay. So it is my request to the parents, request to the teachers again, that if a student comes and confesses, if a student comes with you and he's being honest about certain thing, don't penalize him, praise him, give him that mark. It will encourage him. It will encourage him to be honest further in his life. So I hope that with this little funny incident of my own student life, you have learned something and you have enjoyed the video. Thank you very much.